Hello, I'm Sara Gaston.
And I'm Joe Grisafi, and welcome to another episode of
Your Mileage May Vary. So today we're going to talk, I'm not going to talk a whole lot. Joe's mostly going to talk about his experiences recently on set because I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but we live in a COVID pandemic world right now. And the protocols for safety on set are really, really specific in these COVID times. So we wanted just to talk a little bit about what you can expect if you are auditioning and booking right now.
And if you have auditioned and booked during this COVID time, maybe you can share with us your experience and see if it's similar to what I experienced or if it's completely different. Now, you and I have both worked on some smaller things during the pandemic where the seriousness of it was pretty lax.
Yes.
And that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the productions, the big time productions that are taking it very seriously.
Yes, we're talking about SAG productions. And if you know anything about the Screen Actors Guild or Actors Equity, you know that unions and guilds have very, very strict COVID protocols right now because they're there to protect their employees. So let's crack on with the show, shall we?
Yes, so this was for a big show.
Oh my Lord, I thought I was going to ask the questions. Clearly not. Go ahead.
Ask away.
No.
No, my experience is with a very big show, and I can't wait to share with you what the show is.
He really can't.
I can't. And this is March. We're going back to November.
Okay.
When this took place.
All right.
You put me on tape for 3 roles.
I did.
And I submitted those auditions.
Didn't I coach you a little bit too?
Yes, this is all because Sarah's brilliant coaching that this happened. No, really, it is. Then a week later, I got an audition request for
a different role. Right.
Same show.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, this is great.
Which, may I interject?
Mm-hmm.
So our manager always says, don't worry about booking the role, worry about booking the room, which basically means impress that casting director because then if they like you, they're going to want to see you for other things if you're not quite right for that initial couple of things. Back to you.
Exactly. So we were actually at dinner and I got a text from Amber at Trinity Talent, our agent in Georgia. About another audition for the same show. And you coached me at dinner, if I recall correctly, because it was a one character thing.
Right.
It was a one speech thing, and
you
didn't have time to help me that night because it was due the next day in the morning.
I couldn't actually film you, but I was able to coach you for the scene.
Right. The speech was just this character. There was no interaction with any other character, so I was able to tape it on my own that night at midnight. Anyway, I submitted the audition, and 2 days later, the phone rings and Amber's name pops up, and you know that means something.
Oh yeah,
because she only emails she only emails or texts when
this
it's
is
just
a lot
an
of
audition.
backstory.
Yeah, backstory. But she called, so I knew. The last thing I auditioned for was that. So I got excited, and sure enough, she said I was the first, their first choice. They had to get approval from the network for me, but what was weird about it was there was no callback. There was no...
Book straight from tape. It happens a lot, you guys.
It does. And this is...
Which is why you want to have a performance.
Yes.
When you tape. Not
and your best video, lighting, and sound you can have.
Right.
So...
And a little bit of coaching.
And this is important because this is all... We're talking about COVID here. So there was no callback. There was no Zoom callback, which I thought was strange. Okay, this is a big thing.
Right.
And there's no... Even though it's a small role, contractually it was co-starring, but on paper it's a small role. It's not a bit part, but it's not a significant character to the story.
Day player.
Yeah, day player. So I thought it was strange there was no callback, and that the whole thing was surreal because there was no callback, and the only person I talked to was Amber through this whole process. Well, I booked it. I was very excited. I booked it with the caveat that she said, would you be able to go to Atlanta sooner than we thought?
And here's the rub, because this is what I'm seeing right now. So you only had to go up 5 days early, right?
Right.
I had an audition recently for something, and they were talking 9 days out. So like 2 days pre-flight COVID test, and then taking another COVID test 2 days after you got there, and then you're cleared to go on set like 2 days, later, and then a fitting, and then all this stuff. So this is, now we're talking about budgeting in much longer time, even if it's just shooting 1 day.
Right.
Back to you.
Sarah is absolutely right. I had to get there in 48 hours, first of all. First of all, when I booked the role, it was a week out. Mm-hmm. Then it became, you need to be there. They may need you there by Thursday. Mm-hmm. And it was Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So I needed to suddenly prepare to get on the road and go. If I flew, there's always the risk that I'm going to contract COVID on the way there.
Right.
I could have flown, but I chose to drive. So you got to budget your time and see if you can actually do this if you're getting out of town work.
Right.
Okay, it's a 14-hour drive from Houston to Atlanta.
I thought it was only 10. Yikes.
I stopped a few times.
Okay.
And but I took 2 days to do it as well.
Sure, which is smart.
I stayed overnight on the way there. When I got into Atlanta, I went straight to the studio. Mm-hmm. Went straight to that COVID test, which was I was supposed to do. I had a 3:30 appointment to get a COVID test. I went straight there. Mm-hmm. I got the test, and I passed. Test was negative. Found out that night or the next day. But I had...
Very different from his school days. He passed the test.
Yes, I passed. The shoot wasn't... This is Thursday was the COVID test. Friday is the wardrobe fitting. The shoot's not till Wednesday. So first of all, I had to...
So you were gone a week and a half.
I was gone 8 days. The day I left to the day I got back was 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
So COVID aside, you got to be able to afford to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was a local hire. It wasn't... They didn't pay for my stay. They didn't pay for my travel. It's a local hire. So that's 8-9 days that I had to budget for. Fortunately,
can you take off work?
Yeah, can you take off work? Fortunately, I had a place to go. If you don't, you're going to have, that would have been 5, 6, 7, 8 nights at a hotel.
Yeah.
Even though it paid really well, that would have eaten half of it up.
Right, right.
COVID test on Thursday. COVID test was negative. I got to go to the wardrobe fitting. If that COVID test had been positive, I would have lost the job.
Yep.
I would have driven out there just to turn around and go back home. So 5 days went by. I had to be very careful what I did. And we're in Georgia, so there were a lot of people not wearing masks.
Can I insert a PSA comment right here? By the way, in my humble opinion, if you get an opportunity to get vaccinated, to me, this is a really good reason to consider getting vaccinated if you have other reasons why you're kind of against it, because research has shown drastically decreases your chance of getting it, i.e. the chance of losing out on the opportunity of a freaking lifetime, because this show is huge and I'm so jealous. Carry on.
No, she's right. Sarah's fully vaccinated as of this taping. I have my first shot and I get my second shot in 11 days. Yeah. And I'm excited about that too, because like Sarah said, there is a chance. No one's said this, but there's a chance if you're a vaccinated actor, you might have a leg up.
Right, right.
Versus an actor who didn't get vaccinated. How are they going to prove that? I don't know. You get a card when you get vaccinated.
You do get a card, yeah.
But it's probably counterfeitable. But anyway, that aside.
They could probably test you for antibodies. But anyway, we're not doctors. We're just giving you our opinion.
We just think you should get the shot.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're scared of. So, Friday was the wardrobe fitting.
Dr. Ouchie says it's just a little ouchie, and I'm not throwing away my shot. Oh. Sorry, little Hamilton moment.
So, Friday was the wardrobe fitting. I had Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I had 4 days to go. To chill before Wednesday shoot. So, I spent a lot of time at the house trying to just work on the lines and kill time, because you just don't want to risk it, getting COVID. And when I got to set Wednesday morning...
This is true. And can I interject something too? Mm-hmm. Depending on the set, sometimes they will actually ask you to quarantine, right? So if they've put you up in a hotel, they will ask you to stay in your hotel room and not socialize with people.
That's the athletes, the NFL, they were all doing that last year.
Right. And so, you may be thinking, well, I would be thinking this because I'm a tourist in any city, but you may be thinking, oh, it's so cool. Okay, I've got all these extra days in Atlanta. I can go to, the Martin Luther King Institute or, the Center for Puppetry Arts. That's not a joke. It's a really fabulous place. But you might be thinking, okay, I can do all these things. But again, we have to always remember we're in a pandemic. And he's right. If something were to happen, he would have blown this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got to resist the temptation to go sightseeing, but you have 4.5 days before your shoot. In other normal circumstances, you could go sightseeing, but in this case,
you don't want to do that.
And you're in a state where a lot of people don't wear masks.
Right.
So I was very cautious. I went to the grocery store a couple times, and I went to the pet store once because I had my pet turtles with me because I couldn't leave them at home for that long. Back to the business at hand.
Yes.
When I got to set Wednesday morning, they had me do another rapid test. So if I had been exposed in those 4 days, probably the first 2 days versus the 2 immediately before it,
right,
the test may have come up positive. And if it did, guess what? I would have been sent home after all that.
Yeah.
So it's just not worth it. If you find yourself on a set out of town, don't do the sightseeing until you're wrapped. I got to see all the things Sarah told me to go see the next day.
Yeah.
And it was just great.
Yeah. And that can be your treat, right?
Yeah.
And you can go homesick.
You got a lot of lines to learn too sometimes. So that's use your time wisely.
Right. And you know what? Also, I don't know about you guys, but I am terrible at keeping up with my actor marketing. Like, I don't know the last time I updated my Actors Access profile, So update your credits, put on some new headshots, use that time to do some marketing. So if you feel like you're cooling your heels, I never like the term kill time because I believe, and I'll say this a lot on my Facebook Live, time is our most important non-renewable resource, right? So plan on doing productive things with your time if you can so that you won't be tempted. Treat it like it's work time. And so you won't be tempted to, go out and party. And Atlanta's fabulous. I mean, there's a lot to do. And if you can make it acting related, then even better.
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of time spent working the scenes I had.
Yeah.
So I spent 2.5 days working on the scene I had from the audition.
Now, why were those lines so hard for you to learn?
Because they were a lot of medical terms that I didn't know well.
Right.
So, but the first 2 days were spent working on the scene I had from the audition.
Right.
Which was same concept, but completely different verbiage.
And then they changed the script.
And they changed it with 36 hours before the shoot.
Right.
And I just, my heart fell just thump when I read that scene. It's like, oh, how am I going to learn these words? But so I spent the next day and a half just buried in that script.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any time to waste because then the thing about it was when I got to set, I was so glad that I committed those 4 days to learning it, even though 2 were kind of a waste. They really weren't, because then my mind was in that mode.
Right.
And then while it was very hard to learn the new scene, when I got to set, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. But that has nothing to do with COVID. So let me get back to COVID real quick.
Yeah. I just wanted to make the emphasis that sometimes when and this happens a lot in industrials and it's going to happen a lot in procedurals, you may have to sound like an expert in an industry that you know nothing about. And, that is a whole different level of memorization and sort of comprehension that you're not going to have in a day-to-day sort of type scene where you're like a waitress or you're a worker in an office and like nomenclature that you're familiar with.
Well, let me give them an example of what you're talking about. This is what she's talking about. The scene that I auditioned with, I'm a medical examiner. I'm looking at a body, and the scene I auditioned with was he was describing, she's a big girl. She's got glitter nail polish. Each ear's pierced 3 times. You
were talking about more of the aesthetics versus the medical terminology over injuries.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I worked on. That was simple enough. Okay. Then the AD calls me that Monday night and says, we sent the new scene over to you, confirm that you got it. I opened it, called him back, said I got it. And then I just
cranial hematoma.
That's what it was. It became describing nail polish and shaved legs, and that to, disarticulated bilateral phalanges And
listen to that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Of subcutaneous layers.
Yeah.
Turning black, and humerus and scapulas. And I had to sound like I knew what I was talking about. So I knew what some of these words meant, but I didn't know what they all meant. So I had to spend the evening looking up words.
Right.
And once I knew what they meant, it became easier.
Right.
Because a phalange is an extension. Okay, the finger is a phalange. They're disarticulated. She's got bent fingers.
Right.
And then you memorize the parts of you're starting at the legs, then you go to the hand, then you go to the shoulder, then you go to the eye. There's ways to memorize.
You can start to visualize the map.
Yes. So what Sarah's saying is absolutely true. You've got to sound like you know this stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
To my credit, they had a medical technical advisor on set, and she didn't have to correct me.
That's how it's done, y'all.
It was so great.
You got to do your research. Got to do your actor work.
And they told me that she'd be there to put me at ease. We're going to have a technical advisor on there to help you with the words if you have trouble with them. So I go, okay, great. So I got there, and after the first or second rehearsal, she pulled me aside and said, okay, what did I do wrong? She says, no, you were great. We have to rewrite these lines because the writing was actually incorrect. So I spent a day and a half memorizing this stuff, and then they changed some words. Yeah. From the final word was intraocular. I forget what the original word was, but that's your eye socket. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at an empty eye socket. Well, yeah, it's going to be great. Okay. Anyway, back to COVID. They were very strict on the masks when I pulled up to set for
and talk about lunch too.
Okay. Yes. When I pulled up on Friday for my fitting and my makeup test, I had my mask on, but I had to wear the mask that they provided me. Mm-hmm.
Because you're bringing an outside.
I'm bringing an outside,
germs.
And they wanted to know that everyone's wearing the same level of protection, and that who knows how effective mine was, but you wear the one they give you. The wardrobe and the makeup test went very fast, so and they invited me to eat lunch on set, and I went into the cafeteria where they were on a school ground, so it was like a high school cafeteria or the gym. All the tables were. I wish I had a photo. I didn't take any photos, but they were all. Let's say it's a 6-foot table, so there's plexiglass sections for 3 on each side. Mm-hmm. So and they weren't even clear plexiglass. So it was the frosted stuff. So if you're eating your lunch, you can't see the person in front of you. You have to lean back if you wanted to talk to the person next to you.
Probably so you wouldn't be tempted to go, "Hey, Bill!"
It's very possible, but it was just really, really strange.
Yeah,
but I understood it. But it was just like it was so. If you've ever had lunch on set, on a film set, they can be kind of social. Pretty social.
Like you just kind of become buddies with whoever you sit next to.
This was not the case. This was very. They had already kind of wrapped up lunch by the time I got there, but I could feel the other people that were still there. It was just very isolating. Yeah. Yeah, it was just eat your lunch in this little safe cubicle, and you're not about to lean back and have a conversation. Yeah. Because you're not wearing a mask at that point. Yeah. So that was my experience there. I didn't on the actual my set. I got wrapped before lunch, so I don't know how it was handled, but I'm sure it was the same way. Yeah. But they were very strict about masks. Mm-hmm. They even, and I'm very conscious of this.
Did they have you wear a shield?
No, I didn't have to wear a shield. I did have to wear protective goggles on the stage, but I think that was just to protect your eyes from debris and stuff, because there was dirt and other sets there that were working. They were very strict about the masks, and I was even corrected. I'm not shaking people's hands. I'm very conscious of what's happening. Right. But I went to do a fist bump to one of the ADs, and he's like, nope, elbows. Mm. They were very strict on the elbow.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Can't even touch hands. It was elbows.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So it was really. I was really glad. I was so happy to be there, and I would do whatever they wanted me to be safe. And everyone was in good spirits about it. There was no one seemed grumpy about having to do all this. And I think they were towards the end of the 42-day shoot as well. And spirits were just way up. I think everyone was just so excited to be working. in November before the vaccines were really kicking in. So they just played ball.
Being back to work, and also I would think just being confident that they're doing everything to keep you safe.
Yeah.
In a situation where you're in close proximity for hours at a time, so.
Yeah, and this was on their stage. So yeah, it's enclosed.
Right.
My set was even more enclosed because they had built a room with 3 walls and put a ceiling on it because that's where we're examining the body.
Right.
And I had I guess one of the stars of the story arc of that particular season pacing with me, and then 15 extras behind me. Mm-hmm. So we were and my character wore a mask.
Right.
So I was fine. But we were in this closed space with all these people. And when they rolled camera, of course, everyone had to take off their mask but me.
And I find it interesting that they had that many extras, considering, what we were hearing.
And where we were at the time, it was November, we were still just kind of coming off the peak.
Right. Because, that was one of the things that production was talking about when we first had the shutdown was, we'll go back to work, but we probably won't have a lot of background actors. It's going to be minimal featured staff. I'm curious, was the cadaver artificial, or was there a person?
There was a person.
Okay.
She had dots all over her, which I'm assuming they're going to use in the computer to put the body there. So I had an actress to refer to.
Got it. Okay.
So there were reference points. I saw a body, so I could look at the fingers, I could look at the knees, I could look at the shoulder, I could look at her face.
Yeah.
That made it very easy.
Yeah.
And I knew my eye lines were correct, obviously, because she was there and they didn't correct me on any of that. So I'm hoping it was all done right.
Yeah.
But talking about the crowd, when I pulled up to the set for my hair and makeup check, it was at a high school, and there was a bunch of high school extras. So there was a bunch of people. I know what you're talking about. And the industry people saying we're going to have fewer extras, and I know you don't watch network TV, but I caught a glimpse of current season of court shows where we would have 50 people in the audience. There was, I think Judge Judy had an actual empty courtroom, and another show had like a dozen people.
Well, yeah.
So there's that.
Like if you look at, like Seth Meyers, late night, it's.
But when I pulled up to this set, they were at lunch and there were just high school kids everywhere. But
high school kids,
the precautions,
am I right?
The precautions they were taking, I didn't think much of it.
Right.
Because they're being very strict on these rules. They know what they're doing, and they're keeping these people safe.
Right.
And it may have just been one day of that. So that was my COVID experience on a big set.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, just I know we're all getting our vaccines. We're taping this on March 16th.
2021.
Yep, 2021. Yeah. The shoot I'm talking about was just about 4 months ago, November 18th, 2020. And like I said, Sarah's fully vaccinated. I'm getting mine. Do the right thing. Do the responsible thing. And social distance. Get your shot. We're going to get through this. And clearly we're getting back to work.
Right.
And by the time...
But we'll get back to work quicker, and we'll get back to normal quicker if everyone does their part. Right.
And there's a very good chance that the story I'm sharing with you is already outdated. And by the time in a week that this could be moved further along, so we're even safer. But I don't
think so, because what I told you, that breakdown that I just went on tape for last week, it was even stricter.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It was. That's the thing. It was 9 days out, and you were only 5 days out. Yeah. So the protocols, I don't see them changing anytime soon.
Well, then don't let me make any assumptions.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing.
Because you know what happens if you make assumptions.
Because this was a very well-run, strict COVID aware set. Yeah. There was another industrial thing I did a couple of months ago where I had to distance myself from everybody because they were so careless.
Yeah.
That there was I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I got it on my own, so I couldn't call my agent or my manager and say, hey, there's a problem here. I did it for a friend. It was just a tiny bit of money and it sounded like fun. But when I got there, none of the crew were wearing masks. They had them on, but around their necks. And then the makeup girl was getting in the other actors' faces and no one's wearing a mask.
That's like having pants, but you're holding them on a hanger instead of wearing them.
Right. It was like I had to do my own makeup because I didn't want this woman in my face.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to talk to my friends because no one was wearing a mask. So I found myself standing as far away as I could until I was needed.
Right.
I was just like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. But they all had masks.
Well,
they just weren't wearing them.
You know, some people like you have a pre-existing condition that makes you vulnerable. Mm-hmm. You have parents that are older. So, yeah.
I don't want to bring it to anybody.
Sure. Anyway. Anything else you want to share?
No, that's all I got.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of
Your
Mileage May Vary. I'm Sara Gaston.
I'm Joe Grisafi. Thanks for watching.
And have an awesome, safe day.